Ever get that feeling like when you're watching a real-life soap opera,
Huh?
but like with way higher stakes?
Yeah.
That's the Murdaugh case in a nutshell.
Right.
It's got all the ingredients,
Why,
a
yeah.
powerful Southern family, shocking deaths, and
Oh, yeah. Tons of
a
secrets.
web of secrets so tangled you'll need a flowchart to keep up.
You really do.
It's crazy.
This case, it's fascinating how it just shatters that facade
Yes.
of Southern gentility.
Uh-huh.
And you see the potential for darkness to lurk beneath even the most,
Like polished surfaces.
polished surfaces. Exactly.
Like they're hiding something.
Yeah, it forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that wealth and privilege can sometimes act as a shield. And it obscures a very different reality underneath.
Yeah, and for this deep dive, you send over like a stack of articles,
I did.
court transcripts,
Yeah.
even some psychological analyses.
Lots to get through.
It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to try to help you navigate this twisted tale. We're going to walk through the timeline,
Okay.
break down the key players,
Sounds good.
and try to make sense of how a respected legal dynasty could find itself embroiled in such a scandal.
Yeah. And, we should also delve into some of the legal aspects of the case.
Yes, definitely.
Make sure you understand all those key terms that are being thrown around because, let's face it, embezzlement and insurance fraud might sound familiar, but grasping those nuances can make a big difference in understanding
Huge difference.
the charges that Alex Murdaugh ultimately faced.
Absolutely. So let's start with the Murdaugh family themselves.
Okay.
They were basically like royalty in their little corner of South Carolina.
I mean, they were for over a century. Their name was synonymous with law and order.
Yeah, and Alex Murdaugh, a prominent lawyer himself,
Right.
seemed to be carrying on that legacy.
Mm-hmm.
But then in June of 2021,
Everything changed.
everything changed.
That's when the double murder of Alex's wife Maggie and son Paul on their family property just sent shockwaves through the community and beyond.
Just a brutal crime.
Brutal, with no immediate answers.
Right.
Leaving everyone just wondering who could have committed such a horrific act.
And as if the double homicide wasn't shocking enough.
Right.
You have these other mysterious deaths swirling around the Murdaugh family.
Uh-huh.
Like the family housekeeper died under suspicious circumstances,
Yeah.
initially ruled an accident.
Mm.
And then there's the unexplained death of Stephen Smith,
Right.
a young man found dead on a rural road years earlier.
Yeah. And these deaths,
Yeah,
while not directly linked at first,
right.
they began to raise a disturbing question.
What's that?
Were these isolated incidents, or was there a more sinister pattern connected to the Murdaugh family, a pattern that might have culminated in the murders of Maggie and Paul?
Okay, so we've got a powerful family shrouded in mystery and tragedy.
Yes.
But here's where the story takes a truly wild turn.
Oh, yeah. Tell me.
Alex Murdaugh, the grieving husband and father,
Right.
initially tried to defend himself against accusations of involvement. But as the investigation deepened, a different picture emerged.
And that picture was not pretty.
No, it was not.
Investigators uncovered evidence linking Alex not only to the murders of his wife and son,
Oh my gosh.
but also to a string of financial crimes that had been going on for years.
Wow.
We're talking about embezzlement.
Embezzlement.
Which in this case means that he was stealing funds that were entrusted to him,
Right.
often from clients who were vulnerable and relying on his legal expertise.
So it's hard to wrap your head around the scale of it, right?
Yeah.
We're not talking about petty theft here.
No,
He was accused of embezzling over $8 million.
that's right.
And get this, some of the money he allegedly stole was from clients who had been injured in accidents
Wow.
and were depending on him to help them get back on their feet.
It's just a betrayal of trust
Poor
on such a fundamental level. And it highlights the darker side of power dynamics, how someone in a position of authority can exploit those who depend on them. It really forces us to consider how vulnerable we all can be,
Yeah.
even when we think we've done everything right by hiring an expert.
And the deception didn't stop there.
Oh, no.
You sent over an article detailing how he was also implicated in an insurance fraud scheme,
Yeah.
allegedly trying to manipulate his own mother's life insurance policy
Right.
for personal gain.
A personal gain.
So not only was he potentially responsible for these horrific murders,
It's crazy.
but he was also systematically stealing from people, including his own clients and family.
This is where we start to see the cracks in the facade of the perfect Southern gentleman. It seems that behind the charming demeanor and prestigious family name, there was a deep-seated greed driving his actions.
But how does someone like Alex Murdaugh,
Right.
a man who seemingly had it all,
Yeah.
wealth, status, a loving family,
He had it all.
end up on this path of deceit and destruction?
That's the question.
What makes a person with so much to lose risk everything?
Right.
That's where things get really interesting, and we'll delve deeper into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Because understanding the psychological factors at play here, the motivations and justifications that might have led someone like Alex Murdaugh down such a dark path is crucial to understanding the bigger picture.
Yeah.
It's not just about the crimes themselves, but about the human drama that led to them.
It's almost like we're trying to solve a puzzle, right? We have all these pieces,
Yeah.
the murders, the financial crimes,
Right.
the suspicious deaths.
Right.
But what's the image they create,
Right.
put together?
Exactly.
What was going on inside Alex Murdaugh's head?
Well, you sent over some fascinating psychological analyses
I did.
that attempt to answer that very question.
Yeah.
Some experts suggest that Alex might have been driven by a desperate need to maintain the Murdaugh family's image of power and success,
Oh, wow.
even if it meant resorting to increasingly drastic measures.
So it wasn't just about the money, but about upholding this legacy, this facade of perfection that maybe wasn't so perfect after all.
Exactly. There's this idea that he was trapped by the weight of his family history, feeling immense pressure to live up to the Murdaugh name.
Yeah.
And that kind of pressure can lead to a distorted sense of reality, where maintaining appearances becomes more important than anything else.
And it makes you wonder, was anyone else aware of what was going on?
Right?
Was he operating alone, or was there a network of enablers who helped him cover his tracks?
That's a crucial question, and one that investigators are still trying to answer.
Wow.
There's a lot of speculation about whether other family members or associates knew about Alex's activities and turned a blind eye, perhaps out of loyalty or fear of the consequences if they spoke up.
It's almost like a modern-day Southern Gothic novel, isn't it?
Absolutely.
All these secrets and lies simmering beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic community.
And it speaks to the power dynamics that can exist in small towns, especially when one family has held sway for generations.
Yeah.
It's possible that Alex benefited from a culture of silence, where people were reluctant to challenge the Murdaughs or risk upsetting the established order.
Okay, so we're starting to understand the motivations, the potential web of complicity.
Right.
But let's not forget, this case isn't just a fascinating psychological study or a Southern Gothic tale.
No.
There were real victims here.
Absolutely.
Maggie and Paul Murdaugh were brutally murdered.
Yeah.
Clients were robbed of their life savings. A community's trust was shattered.
It's important to remember the human cost of this saga.
Yeah.
The families who lost loved ones, the individuals who were betrayed by someone they trusted, they are the ones who ultimately bear the brunt of Alex Murdaugh's actions.
So let's turn to the legal process.
Okay.
You sent over some court transcripts.
I did.
And honestly, just reading through them was like watching a legal thriller unfold.
Oh, wow.
What were the key charges against Alex Murdaugh?
Well, he was ultimately charged with a whole slew of offenses.
Okay.
But the most serious were the murder charges related to the deaths of Maggie and Paul.
And how did the trial play out?
The trial itself was a media spectacle with intense scrutiny on every piece of evidence and testimony.
And what was the verdict?
Right.
Was justice served in this case?
The jury found Alex Murdaugh guilty of the murders of his wife and son.
Wow.
He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Wow. So in that sense, yes.
Yes.
There was a sense of legal accountability for the most horrific crimes he was accused of. But what about the financial crimes?
Yeah.
The embezzlement, the insurance fraud?
Right.
Was he held accountable for those as well?
While the murder trial concluded, the investigations into the financial crimes are ongoing.
Oh, really?
So it's possible he could face additional charges and penalties related to those offenses.
It's almost overwhelming to think about the sheer scope of this case, isn't it?
Yeah.
The murders, the financial schemes, the potential cover-ups.
It's a lot.
The family drama. It's like something out of a movie.
And while the trial brought some closure, it also raised more questions. Like, was anyone else involved? How deep does this web of deception go?
Yeah.
And most importantly, what lessons can we learn from this case to prevent something like this from happening again?
Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about one man's downfall, right?
That's right.
It's about the systems that allowed him to operate for so long, the vulnerabilities that were exploited, and the need for greater accountability. especially when it comes to those in positions of power and trust.
Precisely, the Murdaugh case serves as a stark reminder that power can corrupt, that wealth doesn't guarantee integrity, and that even in the most tight-knit communities, secrets can fester and darkness can prevail.
So where do we go from here?
Right.
What are the key takeaways for you, the listener, as you process this information? That's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive. It's easy to get caught up in the twists and turns of a case like this.
Oh, yeah.
Almost like you're binge watching, a true crime series. But as we wrap up our deep dive, it's crucial to step back and ask ourselves, what can we learn from the Murdaugh saga?
Exactly.
What are the bigger implications, not just for the legal system, but for society as a whole?
One of the most striking takeaways for me is how this case exposes the fragility of trust. You have a man who held a position of authority, someone people relied on for legal advice and guidance, and he systematically betrayed that trust for personal gain. It really raises the question, how do we discern who is truly deserving of our trust? Especially when it comes to those in positions of power.
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Because we're taught to respect authority, to believe that those in certain professions adhere to a higher ethical standard. But this case throws all that into question.
It does. It also underscores the importance of critical thinking, of not blindly accepting things at face value. Just because someone comes from a prominent family, holds a prestigious title, or presents a charming facade, doesn't mean they're immune to corruption. We have to be willing to question, to dig deeper, and to hold those in power accountable.
And you sent over an article that discussed the role of the media.
I did.
In uncovering the truth about the Murdaugh case, it makes you realize that a free press is vital.
It really is.
Especially when it comes to exposing wrongdoing. And ensuring that justice is served.
Absolutely. Investigative journalists played a crucial role in bringing to light the financial crimes, the inconsistencies in the official narratives, and the web of connections that might have otherwise remained hidden. It's a reminder that a healthy democracy depends on a robust and independent media that can hold those in power to account.
The Murdaugh case also highlights the complexities of family dynamics, particularly when faced with a scandal of this magnitude. Some family members stood by Alex, while others cooperated with authorities. It forces us to consider the bonds of loyalty and the challenges of navigating truth and accountability within our own families.
And on a broader societal level, this case compels us to examine the systems that allow for abuse of power and to advocate for reforms that promote transparency and accountability.
So true.
How can we strengthen ethical standards within professions like law? How can we create a culture where speaking out against wrongdoing is encouraged rather than suppressed?
So as we conclude our deep dive into the Murdaugh case, what's the one thought you want to leave our listeners with?
That's a good question.
What should they be pondering as they go about their day?
I think this case is a stark reminder that the pursuit of justice is an ongoing process, and that we all have a role to play.
That's right.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the complexities of power corruption and systemic issues. But each of us can make a difference by staying informed, engaging in critical thinking, demanding transparency, and supporting institutions that uphold ethical standards. The Murdaugh saga, as tragic as it is, can be a catalyst for positive change if we choose to learn from it.
Well said, and remember, knowledge is power.
That's right.
By understanding the dynamics at play in cases like this, we become better equipped to navigate the complexities of our world, to recognize warning signs, and to advocate for a more just and equitable society.
Exactly.
So stay curious, stay engaged, and keep asking those tough questions.
I like that.
That's it for our deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.